Hey guys, it's me again, and today I thought I would talk a bit about a thing that's become more prominent in the disability community over the last year or so, but it's always been a topic that has constantly been talked about and needs to be made more awareness of, really. And it fits nicely into my series, My Life with Cerebral Palsy, because it's a thing that I struggle with daily in every aspect of my life. So I thought I would, just explain it, give you some examples, and generally just chat. So the topic I've chosen is accessibility, and immediately a lot of people, not just able-bodied, disabled people as well, will think that I mean ramps and making sure the building's accessible and all of that good stuff, which is very, very important. And I love anyone who does that because it makes a world of difference. But accessibility to me means being able to participate in anything that I want to do. So, being that going out with my friends or working from home because of the pandemic, I've had to adapt quite a bit, and a lot of it hasn't been accessible. But accessibility shouldn't have to be negotiated. It is one of those things that shouldn't have to be made a point of time and time again. But it's one of the things that always gets forgotten, because accessibility for a disabled person means equality. It means being able to do the same stuff that anyone else can do. It means accessing life, basically. And there's a lot of times that I know I've experienced that accessibility, they've said, oh yeah, we've got so and so, but what they have isn't enough. And people think that a lift to one portion of like an historical museum or historical house will help, and that's fair enough. But when the only exhibit you really want to see, or anything, is in the part of the inaccessible building, it's not right, it's not fair, it's not equal. And I get the stuff that I've just mentioned then, old buildings, so you can't really adapt them. But there's ways of making sure disabled people and able-bodied people feel like they can access the information or still join in, regardless of if you have a wheelchair or a walker or a stick or you're blind or anything. It's making those adaptations that may mean little to some people, but it means the world to a group. And yes, we are a minority. I was doing inverted commas there, which means that maybe people see that as us not needing the amount of accessibility we need because there's only a small amount of us, which really isn't the case. Because if you look at the data, the global international data, you can really see there is way more disabled people out there than people believe. But because those disabled people may not use a wheelchair or any aid equipment, people ignore the invisible disabilities, which is also not fair and means things can't be accessed. Like, if you have really bad anxiety and can't be in crowds, but you want to do stuff, there should be ways of adapting that so it's, as I said, accessible to all. I don't know how many times I've gone to a restaurant or a pub, haven't been able to get under the table. And yes, it's only a small thing, but like they've been like those tables that have like the middle portion, like instead of just having legs, it has the whole shebang. And even though I've been still being able to eat with my family and stuff, because yes, I have my own table, but I wanted to feel part of the group, and sticking out like a sore thumb at the end of the table, or it doesn't make you feel the greatest. But because the environment was slightly inaccessible to me, it meant that I did feel like I was getting in the way, because I had to stick out, and my wheelchair had to stick out, because there was nowhere else for me to go. And that happens so many times. And it you kind of grown up to it in a way. Like, I know I go into a restaurant now, I look at the table first and go, where am I going to park? Where am I going to sit? Because as much as my family try, like, no one knows and understands accessibility like the person who has had to deal with it most of their life. Because I now know where I have to go and where I have to sit to make it accessible for me, and not just accessible for me, accessible for everyone else. Because a lot of time people would think that accessibility is a really selfish thing, because you want someone to cater to your needs and your needs only. But in the general scheme of things, making stuff accessible helps everyone, because you may have an able-bodied person who, let's say, they broke their leg or they broke their ankle or whatever, they're going through a tough time, and there is a flight of stairs but no lift. That able-bodied person has to experience the stuff that the disabled people experience year in, year and out. So it's kind of a, I mean, that example I've just given is kind of not a double-edged sword, but it's like, it's got its pros and cons, because then you have the able-bodied experiencing the situations and feelings that everyone else experiences, every other disabled person experiences, but on the other hand, it's not nice. So yeah, well, but I definitely think that people need to be more aware that accessibility isn't just buildings. Accessibility is accessing resources, it's accessing education, it's accessing whatever you need to access to have a functioning daily life. It could even be your own house, like, or your friend's house or whatever. And people like, I know I've asked sometimes, is it accessible? And they're like, oh yeah, it's got a tiny step, but you're fine. And then I've gone, and it's not a tiny step. And like, that is the most disappointing. It's not disappointing, but it's really annoying, because to an able-bodied person, yeah, that may be a tiny step, but to a disabled person, and to me, it is the difference between being able to join in and do stuff and not being able to do anything. Because if I don't take a ramp, or don't have someone with me who can literally push my chair up that step, I'm stuck. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going inside that building that I really wanted to go into. Like a lot of charity shops around where I live, there's only 2 accessible, and one of them is Scope, and Scope is cost accessible because it is a brain damage / cerebral palsy charity. So of course they are going to be accessible, and they are going to cater. And again, the British Heart Foundation charity shop near where I live is absolutely great. They don't mind moving stuff out of the way. But then you go to the more mainstream shops, like, oh, I don't know, Next, H&M, Primark, whatever other shop that has a lot of rails or shelves or items, they are horrible. They are not fun to access at all, because a lot of things have built into the floor, so you can't move them. Or when the sale's on, there's a bunch of sale racks, and then you feel awful because you have to move them all. And the amount of times I've pulled clothes off hangers because I was trying to squeeze into a really tight space to either look at something that I wanted to buy, maybe, or I'm just trying to avoid the main areas where it's really congested because there's a lot of people. Like, it's not a fun time, and there's a lot of times where I go shopping and that tires me out more than the actual I love shopping, but the whole which way is going to be more accessible to my wheelchair is tiring. It's exhausting. They need shops to have guidelines, I think, to know how to have certain areas so that they can be more accessible. And also changing rooms. Changing rooms are a pain because like I don't use them often because of course they don't have a hoist, so I'm a bit up the creek without a paddle when it comes to changing rooms, so I often have to buy my clothes. And if they fit, they fit, and if they don't, they don't. And then I have to return them. But I can try jackets and stuff on when I do need to. And changing rooms, they say disabled friendly. They are not disabled friendly. I think I've been in two that are disabled friendly, and one of them was Primark, but it was a new Primark, so it had a little bit more space. But they don't have hoists or anything like that, so they don't have beds. So for most disabled people, we can't actually have the full shopping experience of going with friends and trying stuff on because that doesn't work, especially if you have the physical needs that I do sometimes, where I can, yeah, it's just bizarre and utterly confusing because if you're gonna say you have a disabled changing room, then make it disabled friendly. Don't just stick a label on it and think that's all right. Because it's not, and society does that so much. If anything, we've called it a disabled thing, but also it's used for baby changing facilities. Like, that's not right. No. Put the baby changing facilities in the male and a female bathroom if you have to, but then don't stick them in the disabled toilet where the disabled toilet might be needed for the disabled. It's utterly bizarre, and that's another problem. Like, access is fine, but then able-bodied people begin to take advantage of it. Like, I don't know if anyone saw that when the masks were getting enforced quite a lot. Well, they still are, but you know what I mean. At the beginning, and people who had invisible disabilities like autism or mental health issues that meant they struggled to wear a mask, they could get a lanyard that exempted them. And there was a massive thing on Facebook going around. I saw it loads. Basically that able-bodied people saying, "Oh, get this lanyard. If you get this lanyard, you won't have to wear a mask." And that's not it. That's what makes it really unfair because half of the stuff that the disabled people have access to, we have to prove we are disabled in order to get that accessibility because able-bodied people have abused the system and abused the abused the yeah abused it, and it ruins and makes it less accessible for the people that do need it. Because like I'm happy wearing a mask, but I know people that have been in my life that would not be happy wearing a mask, and they needed one of those lanyards or one of those cards, and nobody was taking it seriously because everyone was getting one and going, "I can't wear a mask, I have so and so," when they didn't have so and so, they just had a bad attitude and wanted to abuse a system that they felt would help them. Sorry, that's my little pet peeve because it does royally annoy me that, and it's not every able-bodied people, but it's a lot. A lot of the able-bodied people that do it are the people that have grown up without having to deal with any criticism of their opinions or how they treat people or how they think that everything is for them. It's also the ones that parents were like definitely scared of talking about disability, because if disability doesn't get talked about, going back to one of my previous videos where I talked about it, if disability doesn't get talked about, how will people ever understand the stuff they are ruining or making less accessible for the people that do need it? There needs to be a whole conversation about how can we make it so that the people that need it can have access to it, but so it doesn't get abused. And it's a really thin line, and I know that from, well, my I'll say 17, 18 years of, well, yeah, 18 years of experience being a disabled person and trying to get access to stuff and having to prove that I'm disabled. Like, even a parking badge, you have to prove you're disabled. Like, and I do get that, but also making a disabled parking badge available to more people means that more people can use it. There is only a limited amount of parking spaces for disabled people where I go shopping. Like, towards the centre city, it isn't, towards the centre town, it isn't so bad. But, like, you go to, like, a place, a small town, there's no disabled parking because people are parked there. And if it's the thing of, do they have an invisible disability or are they just abusing the system? And it really does me. I often feel really bad for thinking it, but like, they should be separate, not separate, but like a way of identifying importance, I think, because like normal parking spaces, you can't fit a adapted vehicle in and get me out safely because the ramp then goes into the road. And it's like the disabled parking bays have places on either side so that I can drive and wait for whoever needs to get stuff out of the car or whatever so that I don't get run over. It's stuff like that makes those accessible. And or at the end of the day, just make every car park space like it. Don't even think about it. Just get rid of the whole, these are normal parking spaces and this is disabled parking spaces, because then no one would have any complaints and it would be great. But hey, wishful thinking, because for some reason it just doesn't happen like that. It's mind-boggling, and it's a topic that I would dive into forever, but I think the starting point need to be, there are so and so many people who are disabled in the UK. What do these people need on a daily basis? What adaptations do they need to make life accessible for them? And that is a starting point. I think maybe the government needs to do a survey to, not right now obviously because pandemic and there's more important things, but someone needs to do a survey for to and for the disabled people, asking what needs to be more accessible. And we, as a community, or whoever's watching this, need to be honest and say, we need this, this, and this. We know it might be difficult, but we have gone this long without it, and it isn't fair. We need more access to medical care, or we need more access to shops, or we need more access to entertainment places like theme parks or cinemas. We need to speak up and say, this isn't right. We have human needs. We deserve a modicum of respect of the things we need. We deserve the system to not get abused, but that will never change because there'll always be a new system to abuse. We deserve to access anything that an able-bodied person can access. And I think maybe it'll take a while, definitely take a while, but eventually I think in a lot of ways society will be better for it, because once it's accessible for disabled people, it's accessible for everyone, instead of people thinking once it's accessible for an able-bodied person, everyone can access it, because that's not the case. And I think that's a lot of what society thinks sometimes, especially doing my sociology course now and knowing that a lot of society's norms are being broken down. But on the topic of disability, none of the norms are being broken down. People are just a lot more unconscious about it because it's been not bred into society. It's been integrated into society that disabled people are so and so, and they can't do. My experiences are that I will never be in a bed properly, apparently. I don't want relationships, or any of that stuff, and I don't want to work. These are all like stuff that people have. Society has a way of insinuating stuff now without actually coming out and saying it, which is so much worse, because it then gives me internalized ableism, because I then think, oh well, they are definitely thinking that. I might not be. They might not be, but because that is the way that I have grown up, and that is the way that I know society thinks. It's how my brain has adapted to the stuff that I've seen, whether it's been media or books or whatever you want to say. Yeah. I also think media needs to do a better job of showing people that disabled people want to be doing stuff, and all it needs is a few adaptations that would make the world of difference. Yeah, there isn't much more I can say on this topic, and I know I've been talking for a while, so I will leave it there. But if anyone has any questions, please don't be worried. Just comment them down below, and I'll answer as honestly as I can. Any other comments you have, comment them down below, of course. Please share this video, because this is probably a video that would help a lot of people and get the point across, I guess. But also, if you don't, it's fine. Like, as I've said, comment, and if you've only found me from this video, don't forget to subscribe, because I love having people that watch my videos, and I love sharing content with you guys, and you're all incredible. So, thanks for watching. And now I'm going to spasm for like 2 minutes while I stop this video. My routine for YouTube videos, I know it's been a bit all over the place, but it will be back to normal soon. Well, normal-ish. I'm going to try to do at least 2 videos a month, if I can, if my body will physically allow. My next one will probably be a beauty one, because I have talked in this one, and that's what my channel is about. It's about disability, but it's also about me doing my makeup and showing people that I can do my makeup. So I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.